Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the tank review for the brand new Polish Tier 9 Premium Heavy Tank, the 50TP prototype, the Resilient. Now yes, you heard me say that right, this is the Tier 9 Polish 50TP prototype, and that's because it is the Tier 8 50TP Proto that they've moved up to Tier 9 and kind of given the Cobra T54 treatment in the fact that obviously they've changed some of the stats, like they've changed the armour and they've changed how the stats for the gun and mobility and stuff like that. So they've basically made it a Tier 9 Premium that was a Tier 8. And the reason they've done this is because they have done it for charity. So they've done it for the United 24 charity for Ukraine. And so they've made this skin for the 50TP prototype, moved up to Tier 9 and made it its own tank. And every single penny that you spend on this tank will go to the charity. You know what, let's show you the webpage here. As you can see, I'll leave that up there for you for a second so you can pause it and read it yourself. But the important bit there is that we will donate 100% of every purchased Wargaming United bundle via United 24, the official fundraising platform for Ukraine buying C-type ambulances that will take on the duty to save lives. So there you go. That's the thing that they've said. That's the pledge that they've made, that every single penny you spend on this tank will basically go to that charity. I will put the link to this article in the description so that you can go have a look at it yourself, because it's down to you whether you want to support that or not. Obviously, it's a good cause, but it's completely down to you. And whether you can afford it, that's the thing, because this tank cost about £25 for me, I believe, which is obviously different. It costs different amounts depending on the region you're in, but it's £25 for me. And yes, it isn't in the DLC section of the store and not in the World War II tank section, because it is only available to purchase for money and not gold, because it's a charity donation, essentially. That's the way you've got to look at the Resilient tank. It is a charity donation. So if you want to support the charity, you have to buy it with the £25, which is a lot of money, and especially in the current climate. So it's down to you and how you spend your money. Always remember to be sensible with your money, essentially. You know, it's down to you and how much you have and stuff like that. But the tank itself, without further ado, without any of the other stuff that's attached to it, the tank itself is pretty okay. It's actually alright. It just sort of plods along. It's pretty decent. You would have thought that if it's for charity, they would have made something completely OP, like, say, the AAT-60. But for a tank, it's just pretty average. It's pretty okay. The gun on it is pretty decent, although the penetration's a little bit low. The armour on it works, but it's fairly troll, so it's kind of like, sometimes you'll bounce a decent amount, and then sometimes you'll just get absolutely shredded, although it can side-scrape pretty nicely, and the gun depression is really good. And on the whole, it's just capable. I think that's the way of putting it, which is pretty balanced, right? It's just capable. It's good in some situations, bad in others, and you're not, like, handicapped by the fact that the tank is terrible, because it's not. It's just pretty good. Like I say, I always, I'll say it the same as I did with the Cobra T54, that my gripe is that it would have been better if it was just fresh content, as opposed to a Tier 8 moved up to Tier 9 and then given a skin, since we do have the ability to have skins in this game. But that's my only gripe, and it is for charity, so whatever. But yeah, the tank on it as itself is not that bad. It's actually pretty good, to be honest. Like I say, pretty capable. So without further ado, let's get into the stats. And I didn't take the equipment off, which is always a good time, which I always make sure I do normally so that we can get it sorted. So let's go have a look at the stats of the 50TP prototype, the Resilient. So it's got 750 horsepower with 40 km/h top speed and a 16 km/h reverse speed, with a 14.33 horsepower per ton ratio and a 20% fire chance. So the 20% fire chance is on the high end for the fire chances, so you can be careful of that. You could get set on fire pretty easily, especially if they shoot you in the back end. You've got that 40 km/h top speed, like I say, with that good power to weight, which means that you do hit 40 km/h. And that is the difference between this and the Tier 8, is obviously the Tier 8 has a 35 km/h top speed, so that extra little bit of mobility is actually quite nice for the Resilient. You've got 2,000 hit points, which is actually a great slab of hit points for a Tier 9 heavy tank. Means that you can trade pretty effectively, which is nice. You've got 30 degrees of second of hull rotation, which is not too bad for a heavy tank. It doesn't feel too slow when it's turning the chassis. You got 2.1 soft terrain, 1.3 on medium, and 1.1 on firm. Not the best, but not the worst. You might want to make that better to help that top speed if you can on all terrain distances. It's up to you. I probably would recommend that, but yeah, it's down to you. Camo, no one cares about camo on a heavy tank. And 380 metres of view range, which is okay. You can get that up to a decent amount. And I think that's the same as the Tier 8. Or actually, it might be 10 metres better than the Tier 8. But For a tier 9 heavy, a lot of them are pushing 390, 400 at this point, so that's a little bit on the low side for this, but, you know, it's not too bad for a heavy tank in general anyway. You got 24 degrees a second on the turret rotation speed, so yet naturally the turret rotation is slower than the hull, so you might want to take rapid aim to get that up towards the hull rotation speed. It's down to you. 0.96 accuracy during rotation isn't the best, but actually, to be honest, for a 122mm gun, actually isn't the worst. It's pretty, that's okay. Like I said, everything about this tank is just sort of, yeah, it's alright. It's not bad, it's not good, it's just alright. You've got 20 degrees of elevation with 10 degrees of gun depression. Now, the 10 degrees of gun depression comes with a caveat because it's the same as the 50 TP prototype, where you've got 8 over the front and 10 over the side. So if you want the full 10 degrees of gun depression, you have to angle your tank sideways, and that's where you get it. And you've got a fully rotational turret like most heavy tanks. 14.6 second base reload is slow when you get that down to about 10, and we'll have a look at it in a second or when we get towards the end, but it's actually, I think, the slowest of the 440 alpha guns at the tier by only like 0.2 second, but it is the slowest out of all those reloads. You've got 0.4 accuracy, which at distance can let you down a fair amount. You've got 3.84 accuracy during movement, which is absolutely utter garbage. So yeah, firing on the move is, well, as it always is, it's pure RNG, but a lot of the time it's going to miss because it's not very good at all. You've got 2.7 second aim time, which is a little bit slow. You can buff that down if you want to, it's down to you, but it does take a little bit to aim it in, especially when you're going from full bloom. And you've got AP, APCR, and HE. 35 rounds as well. I kind of wish it was 40, and you'll see why in a bit. So we've got 1808 DPM, which, again, like I say, is on some of the lower ends for these 440 alpha guns. And you've got 240 pen on the standard round, 310 on the premium, 68 on the HE. Now, 240 pen on the premium round, on the standard round, sorry, is a little bit low for a tier 9 heavy tank, especially a brawler like this tank. You can make it work on the Cobra T54 because that's a flanker and it's an autoloader, whereas on a tank like this that tends to get stuck in more often, 240 starts to struggle against a lot of the heavy tanks that you face at tier 9 and 10, and it means that you bounce a fair few awkward shots, which can be a little bit annoying. So the 310 APCR pen, though, is pretty damn solid, and you'll pen most things you're going to face with that. So you might have to press the A key, the A button, I should say, a lot more than anything, really, to when you face those tanks, which is just something to bear in mind. 440 Alpha, like I say, 1110 ammo speed on the standard AP is really nice, and 1300 on the APCR, well, nearly 1300 on the APCR is really, really nice as well. The shell velocity on this tank is great. And as it's a tier 9 premium, unfortunately, it doesn't get any bonuses, and since this is for charity, I kind of wish that this did have, like, again, a good bonus to the commander bonus, or, like, 125% silver bonus, or something like that, just to have a little bit extra, again, to entice you more to support the charity, right? I just wish that it had that, but it doesn't. So that's something to bear in mind, that you don't really get any bonuses for the tank. And yeah, this is the armour layout of the tank. As you can see, you've got 240 on that turret front, and on the upper hull, it's 130mm. So if you look at the 50 TP prototype, the tier 8, this is where obviously it's different. This is where you can see the up-tiered. It's only 210 on the turret, and it's only 110mm on the upper hull and the lower plate. So naturally, the armour is actually better on the Resilient. They have buffed that armour, so it's not just tier 8 heavy's armour at tier 9, it's actually different, okay, so that is something for it too. In terms of equipment on this tank, well, you saw it at the start, but we do run Advanced Loader, the vertical stabilizers because you really need to help the gun, and optics to be able to spot for yourself so that you're not blind and you can get some nice assistance at times. And yeah, that's basically why I run it. I run it so you can make the gun better, have better DPM, and have way better view range. And you can get it up to a really decent level with that. I mean, you could run vents to make everything else better if you wanted. If you just weren't bothered about view range whatsoever, which you really should be in World War II. In World War II, you definitely want to buff up your view ranges as much as possible if you can. You could run something like the traction system to go at 44 kilometers an hour. You could run the GLD to make that terrible aim time better. Well, not terrible, but that bad aim time better. You know, there's multiple different ways you can set up a tank in that regard. And in terms of the crew, we have stuck Mila in the tier 8. Let's go put her back in the Resilient. And yes, so in terms of a crew, I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Trap Mechanic, Deadeye, which you can change out for anything, really, Run and Gun, Snapshot, and Steady Aim. The 3 gun perks because you want to help this gun as much as you humanly can, because the gun is pretty derpy, so you want to help it. Deadeye, because I just wanted to have better chance of damaging modules with this high caliber gun, or higher caliber gun, I should say. And you do that, you'll notice it in the replays a fair bit, where you damage people's engines with a shot and stuff like that, and you tend to notice it a little bit more with when you run Deadeye, that you damage people's modules. But again, it could be a placebo effect, you just think you're doing it more, and realistically it's probably just a waste of a perk slot. I just do it for the memes. You could definitely run Rapid Aim to get your turret traverse up towards your track traverse, and that's probably a better thing to run instead of Deadeye. You could run off-road driving to help your ground resistances, especially if you're to take something like the traction system, and then that would help you get up to your top speed even easier. You know, if you felt like the track traverse wasn't good enough, you could run clutch braking. You know, there's armour angling if you wanted to reduce the amount of damage coming in. There's plenty of ways to set up your tanks. It's completely down to you and how you play the tank, and it's how you feel comfortable. That's just how I set it up, and that's always kind of just a template, really. So let's have a quick look at the stats while it's fully set up. So as you can see, we've now knocked the terrain resistances down a little bit, and that's just through Born Leader. The view range is up to 486.63 meters, which is really great. You're at 26.06 degrees a second on the turret rotation, so just a little bit better than it was. You've got now a 10.65 second reload, which is nearly 2.5k DPM. 0.32 accuracy now, down from that 0.4, which is decent, but it's still... You know, it's decent, but it's still not great when you're firing at range, and you do feel that accuracy at range. You've got 2.19 accuracy during movement, like I say, which is still is pretty poor. Oh yeah, I didn't say the accuracy during rotation as well at 0.51, which is actually pretty damn good. So turning the turret is actually not as big of a hindrance on this tank's accuracy as it is just to move. When you move, you'll notice the gun blooms up a hell of a lot. And you've got a 2.5 second aim time that you've knocked it down to, which is not great still, and like I say, you do feel that aim time when you're waiting for it to get aimed in. So yeah, let's have a quick look at the comparison between the other 440 guns, of which naturally most of them are Soviet. So you've got 10.65 reload on this tank and 0.32 accuracy, 2.49 second aim time with this setup. Bear that in mind as we go. And obviously you can pause as we go along and compare and contrast as much as you want. So the 777 version 2 has a 10.36 second reload, so it's actually faster. It's got 0.34 accuracy, which is worse, and you've got 2.67 aim time, which is worse than the Resilient. You've got the 257, which has a 9.12 second reload, far, far better. 0.32 accuracy, the same. 2.49 second aim time, sorry, which is better, or the same. No, that's the same, isn't it? The ST1, which is a 9.7 second reload, 0.31 accuracy, which is better, and a 2.58 second aim time, which is about the same, was it? I'm getting lost. You'll have to go back and have a look. And the T10, which naturally should be better because it plays more like a medium than a heavy, 8.31 second reload, which is far better than any of them in terms of that reload on the 122. 0.29 accuracy, which is the best version of this gun, and 2.49 second aim time, which is, again, better. Was the reload, was the accuracy, the aim time, sorry? Oh, it was 2.49, so most of them, the aim time's actually worse than this tank, except for the T10. There you go. But this tank does have 10 degrees of gun depression, as opposed to all of these tanks, which have 5, and the ST1, which is the odd Russian tank that has 8. So yeah, just bear in mind that this tank does have 8 degrees over the front, 10 over the side. That is something to bear in mind for the Resilient. But yeah, the Resilient, it's a pretty decent, I'd say it's a pretty decent heavy tank. It does what it says on the tin. It just sort of gets stuck in, can bounce shots here and there, can slap with the gun, can, like I say, get stuck in with the brawl, but it's just not fantastic, but it's not bad, right? It's pretty balanced. And capable is the word that I use to Randy, and I would go with that. It's pretty capable. It can do stuff. The situations where you get screwed over, and the situations where you are like, haha, I feel great, and that's the way a tank should be, right? But yeah, so you buy this tank in the DLC store for £25, or whatever that is in euros and dollars, etc., etc., and it will all go to the United 24 charity, as you've seen in the link that I will put in the description for the article that Wargaming have released. They're doing this across all of their Wargaming products that they have, so obviously Blitz, warships, PC tanks, console tanks, you know, the works. They're doing this across these sorts of bundles across all of their titles. So yeah, that's the Resilient, that's the lowdown. That's the tank you're going to get for your £25. Like I say, be sensible with your money, especially in this climate. If you can afford it, support the charity if you want. It's down to you. And that is the 50TP prototype Resilient. So as always, everybody, I'm going to send you over to the replays where you can watch the tank in action for yourself, see how it handles, and make your mind up on, well, just generally how the tank plays out. So as always, everybody, I'll see you in the replays. So here we are in the replays with the Resilient in the first game, which is probably one of the more average games I've had in the tank, and that is we are on Serene Coast. We're top tier, so that's pretty nice in general, because this tank is one of those that will be very, very nice when it's top tier, because you have that alpha, the armor's pretty good when you're facing against the tier 8s and 7s, etc., and when you've got that sort of alpha and the decent pen, the decent ability to get about, you're gonna wreck some days with it, which is nice. When you're against tier 10s, obviously your armor doesn't hold up quite as well, and your 440 doesn't stand up. Well, I should say your 440 doesn't stand up as well. Your 440 isn't alone as much in that situation, right? When you've got 440 alpha at tier 8 and tier 7, you're starting to slap more than the tanks that... There's a lot more tanks that have that 250 alpha to 390 alpha, right, at tier 8 and tier 7. So when you've got 440, it hits harder and it stands out more, right? But when you're facing tier 9s and 10s, or lots of tier 9s and a fair few tier 10s, and a lot of your games at tier 9 will be against tier 10s because that's just the way the cookie crumbles, your 440 doesn't stand out as much. And like I say, your armor isn't the best against those, although you've got very good turret armor. You do have very good turret armor. So when you're going hull down, you will bounce a decent amount with that turret, but your hull armor will become cheesed. So it's just something to bear in mind that when you are top tier, you can be a lot more aggressive than you can against the tier 10s. Just something to bear in mind. So yeah, we've come to this position here at DC1 on Serene Coast. And as you can see, the gun depression has been a little bit awkward with the Resilient. And that is because, like I say, you have 8 degrees over the front and you have 10 degrees over the side. So you have to sort of angle sideways a little bit to get the most of the gun depression. And here at C1, we are pretty alone, and these two guys are pushing very aggressively. Thankfully, the Kampfpanzer 50T misses his shot, and we slap a shot straight through his side. I'm kind of like, please help me, people. I need help. But we're a tier 9 against a tier 9 and a tier 8, so, you know, I'm just sort of praying that the two guys that we spotted down at E1 don't attack with these guys and don't appear. Because if they end up coming and attacking us too, and there's like 4 tanks against us, we are certainly dead. But at the minute, these guys have been a bit slower to... Well, they're not pushing too aggressively, and I think the SD-130PM has actually come to join us as well. So they're having to be a bit more careful when they're attacking us, and that means that we can just start bleeding them slowly but surely. Plus, there's a Mouschen that's appeared at D1. It's pushing very aggressively, which has started to distract them a little bit. But because these guys are being very, very cautious and a little bit slower, it's giving me the impetus to come over and start pumping shots in. So we end up waiting for the Guardian STG to fire. I want to get rid of this Kampfpanzer. We go for his lower plate, but unfortunately we were just aiming a slither too high, and because we still were aiming at the lower plate, but because obviously the accuracy on this tank isn't the best, we ended up hitting the upper plate and ricocheting. Then we bounce off the side of the E75 turret, which is where 240 pen, sorry, not 248, 240 pen starts to let the tank down a wee bit, which is, if we had like the 258 pen of say some of the other 122, we probably would have penned that E75 side of turret. But yeah, the Kampfpanzer 50T gets shut down by the SU-130PM. We now start getting shots into this Stone Cold that's at the back, but unfortunately for me, he ends up getting behind where the Hurling Hund and the Mouschen is. And because of where our tanks are and where the Mouschen got to, I don't feel like there's really anything that can shoot us from the back of the map. So I feel quite confident in pushing aggressively over this little hill here to basically try and get another shot and kill the Stone Cold, but we missed that other slim shot that we had, and the Hurling Hund ends up shutting down the Stone Cold, so we don't get the damage. We're up to 477 assistance, 2.5k damage, which is, you know, fairly mediocre to average for a tier 9 tank, so we're just trying to get over to where the rest of the enemy team is, because at the minute, I was about to say there's 8 tanks left, but actually there's 7 tanks left, and they're all on the other flank. Now, this is where our mobility is pretty decent, because that means we can still get over there at a decent time. The STRV-1030 is in front of us. We're just looking at the Conway and the 65T. We can't quite get shots at those guys. We get a shot on the move into the side of the STRV-1030, and that puts us on to 3,032 damage. We're just trying and hoping that will get anywhere near these guys, because our team is starting to swarm. A lot of the team is back here with me, though, and there's only 1 or 2 tanks actually attacking the guys at F9. So I'm pretty confident that I might get there to get at least one more shot. The medium in front of me, which is a brass, is going in on the 65T. So I'm looking at the 65T going, oh, he's going to die. And yeah, the brass got one in, and the Hurlenhund ended up finishing him off. Now, there's only 4 tanks left in front of us, and I'm like, please don't lose your hit points. I want some damage. And that's just the way it is, because you're always damage hungry, you know, you got to go chase him. So we come round the side here, and we've got shots into the back of this bay, I'm like, yes! No! As we hit the dirt, because of course we do, and I'm thinking, well, I'm not getting another shot now into this guy, that's it. Or maybe, no, just as we fire it hits him, he dies, because of course it does. So we finished the game with 477 damage and 477 assistance, 3,032 damage, with that 1,244 base XP, which is a second class. Let's say fairly average game for a tier 9 heavy there, with the Resilient on Serene Coast. And now we're on to the second replay, and the second replay, we're on this map, which is Vineyards. We're on Vineyards, and we are going to go to up the J line. Essentially, we're going to go up to the J line. We're going to go sit at the position at KJ5, because from there I can sort of use my good gun depression. I can spot out the people that sit behind that little ridge. If we have enough people sitting behind us, like TDs and stuff, we might be able to get a good amount of assistance. And then we can push either side of that little mound that's in front of us, left or right, to get damage out as we want and get assistance and stuff like that. And with the good mobility that the Resilient has at 40 kph, we can actually get there pretty quickly as well. Although, as you're seeing, we tend to stick to about 37, 38 as opposed to hitting 40. Because, I mean, we've been at flat and we've not quite got over that 37 kilometers an hour. But I'm just looking now to see what's behind me, see what sort of cover I have, and see if, well, you know, if I spot something, am I going to get some assistance here? And there is some heavy hitting tanks behind us, so I'm hoping, beyond all hope probably, that something will shoot them and I will get assistance and I won't just get rushed. So we spot the tortoise, get a shot into the side of the tortoise. Oh, that was a big, oh, I'll take that, 1,500 assistance off the bat. Sorry, Mr. Tortoise, that was brutal. Now we're looking for shots into this E5 and seeing if he gives me a shot. But the Valor does, and 503, I'll take that roll. Tracks him in place. He looks to try and get a shot into us, but ends up getting shot at and thinks better of it. Now we've got the M60. We get a nice shot into the M60 and bounce his shot as well, which is great. Because the one thing with the 50 TP is that the tracks, it's kind of like the ARL in a way, that the track or the drive wheel sort of pops out beyond the hull, if you know what I mean. So that if sometimes people shoot your drive wheel, they won't actually track and pen you, they only do track damage. Depends on where they shoot that track wheel. But yeah, we ended up bouncing on that E50M. We go for the shot into the M60, and unfortunately at that angle we also ricochet off the M60's lower plate. It's kind of where I wish we had a little bit more penetration instead of 240, because against these two medium tanks, 240 is starting to struggle a little bit. He gives us his drive wheel, and I think, yes, track and pen on this E50 is going to get deleted right if he pokes out, because that's what's been happening. And unfortunately, yeah, no, not quite. He didn't quite poke out enough, and we actually didn't pen that guy either. Then we go for the shot into his lower plate, and it goes a little bit wide and only does track damage, but we do get a tracking assist there into that guy. But they're starting to pen us now, which is a little bit sad. I was kind of, what I'm trying to do, like I say, is bait that track round the corner, and hopefully they'll shoot that, and they'll only do track damage and track me and won't pen me. But it's not quite happening. We get another shot into the M60. The M60 snaps the shot straight in, and he actually does track and pen us there, because he must have hit us to the far right of the drive wheel. And now we've not got very much hit points left whatsoever. But we have managed to get a pretty good amount of assistance from this game. We're up to 2.7k assistance with 1,800 damage. And I'm just kind of waiting for my spotting to disappear, my sixth sense to disappear, so that I know that when I push up, I'm not going to get shot by the enemy team that probably... Well, you never know, because for some reason on Vineyards, people like to camp at F1. And you get there and find there's just someone with a big gun hiding behind a rock at FG1, and you're like, what? And then they delete you, and you're like, oh, my hit points. But anyway, now we're in a position to get shots into the sides of these guys. That was a poor shot. I don't know why I took that shot. That was it. I want to get the snapshot to get the kill on the Ag Tiger, and unfortunately he drove behind a big hill. Now we're just waiting for the reload, which is a little bit long, and it does feel a little bit long in this sort of situation where the game's deteriorating. And we didn't quite get a shot into the 430 version 2, but we do get to shut down a Ruthless, which is always satisfying. There's 3 tanks left, and all 3 of them, we know exactly where they are. They are currently spotted at A5, so we're trying our best to speed along to get towards the position at D3, where we can get some elevation and maybe get shots into their side, back, or whatever. Hopefully they've got some hit points as well, because we want a little bit more damage if we can. There's the 4005. Who's currently got pretty damn good hit points, which is good. The other medium tank at standard B has also got a fair whack of hit points. So I'm like, please keep your hit points so that I can hopefully get one or two more shots of damage. That Cav Panzer 50T, I think, just bounced the 4005, which hit him on the move. That's quite the shot for the 4005, and quite the bounce too. But yeah, the 4005 ends up getting absolutely deleted. Now we've got shots into this standard B. We lead the shot because I thought he was just going to charge forward. And of course he stopped. Because of course he did. We ended up missing the shot. The Cav Panzer 50T goes charging in. We try and get the shot into the standard B, and thankfully RNG leads the way and puts that shot straight into the standard B, because that should have missed. But we'll take it. And we finish the game with the epic victory. Again, a pretty average game for the tank. 1 kill, 2.5k damage, 3.2k assistance. The second class. And, yeah, 1,493 base XP. Pretty damn decent game for the Resilient. Like I say, pretty average game. Kind of showed you how the armour holds up against the tier 10s. If you can bait people with that driver, you'll keep getting tracked but won't get penned. But once they start finding your lower plate, it starts to go downhill very, very quickly. Like the M16 and the E50M did. They seem to be bouncing, and then all of a sudden it was like, my armour, no, don't do it. And, you know, I start bleeding hit points left, right, and centre. So, this was the best game I had in the tank. So, those first 2 games were the more average experience you're probably going to get in the Resilient. And this was the best replay that I had in the tank that I was going to show you. I thought, why not show you anyway? And then the final replay is going to be a fairly long one, but it's going to be an absolute cracker. It's what a game we had in this tank. Yeah, I'm not going to say anything else. It's just say, what a game. Best game I've had in a Tier 9 for a long while. And it was an absolute stonker of a game. And I just had to include it because you guys have to see it, essentially. And these games are why I say it's capable. Because even though we were bottom tier in one game there, and, you know, we were a little bit... Well, the games basically collapsed very, very quickly in both those other 2 games that you've just seen. We were still capable of doing a decent amount. And this game is another one where I feel very, very capable. And then the next game is another one where, again, backs up my feeling of feeling capable in the tank, right? Where I'm not outrageously good, and I'm bad in some ways, but, again, balanced. But at the same time, I feel like in situations I can control the engagement and I can do my thing, right? You know, I'm not useless, and I'm just capable. It's just fairly capable. So, yeah, we're on to this replay, like I say, which was the best replay. Not anymore, and you'll see why when you see the last replay. But, yeah. So, we're on this map, which is Hellfire Pass Small. Yeah, so this is a small version of Hellfire Pass where they basically cut off the whole northern section of the map. And it's basically created this little area here where you can have a good little brawl. And most of the fighting on this map happens in this one area, which is why they've made it small, essentially, and released it, because it happened even in when it was the big map on the World War II area. You'd end up having like 2 or 3 tanks go off and into the north, trundle away down there, or 4 or 5 tanks trundle away down there, find nothing of the enemy team because their whole team charged and fought in this one section that we're fighting in right here. And then, while your team got murdered, and there was 5 tanks that did no damage because they found nobody. So they basically made that northern section really small and spawned everybody in these 2 sections here, which means that you get a pretty decent brawling map. Not too great for some of the light tanks and stuff like that, but it's a pretty brawly map for some of the heavy tanks. Don't mind it too much. But like I say, when tanks have not got too much armour, it's a little bit annoying to play sometimes. So, anyway, besides that, we are now against this M103 and Proto 66. We've pushed quite aggressively down this little heavy tank spot here that we're fighting. The M103 fires. I was side-scraping and great driving me. He gives us his side, which we slap a shot straight in, and he gets shot down. Now we're waiting for the reload because we want to go after this Projecto 66, who isn't looking at us. So hopefully we'll get a shot in before he can get a shot into us, which we do. Now he's possibly looking to get a shot at us. The artillery slaps a shot in as well, which is really annoying. He ends up firing. Now, obviously, he has got an auto-reloader, but he ended up firing, and he got shut down. Now we've got a shot into the IS-3, which we finish off. We're up to 2.1k damage and 565 assistance. Going to try and get round to finish off this heavy tank if we can. I kind of expected him to just die, but, well, he doesn't. And we finish off the Progetto 54 there. Second kill of the game. We're up to 2.5k damage. You see where the 50 TP is. We know there's possibly something on the left-hand side. We know exactly where the artillery is, but I want to go close down this 50 TP if I can. He's in a position, a little bit of a position of strength, and while I could worry about the thing that's behind us, the light tank, and possibly anything that might be sitting at G3, we have a lot of people behind me that are starting to progress up now. So I'm kind of like, okay, they can look at that, they can deal with that. I will try and keep this 50 TP prototype, not 50 TP prototype, tier 9 tech tree variant, the 50 TP, sorry, right there, busy. Because the thing is, the trade with the 50 TP is that you do get less DPM, but ever so slightly. You get a more derpy gun, but you get way bigger alpha. And you actually have slightly better armor too, in the way that the armor deals in the 50 TP. So we're against this 50 TP, and yeah, he puts a big shot into us. We've got a 705 directly behind us, and because we fired at basically the same time as the 50 TP, I know I can finish him off. So I drive up to get away from the Object 705, who actually isn't shooting at us. He's not even looking at us. The Skoda gets a shot into us, so I decide, okay, I'm going to ignore the Skoda and go for this this Object 705, sorry. Use the dead wreck of the Bulldog in front of me, or the M41D, to keep me safe from the Skoda, and I could help my friend out in the heavy tank against that 705, which we did. We're up to 3.8k damage now, and we are going after the Skoda T50. It's like, hello, friend. I want your life. You are now mine. We get a shot into him for 445, and yeah, we all know what's coming. Ram! And we shut down the Skoda T50. And luckily for us, we end up finding the M5355, and it's like, well, hello, my friend. Do I smell bacon? And we actually ammo rack the guy as well, which is always glorious. And we finish him off for like 500 odd. So we'll take that bit of nice RNG. Thank you for that game. We're up to nearly 5k damage with 5 kills. We know where the last two guys are. They were, well, their whole team was actually, that was left, was spotted up at CD9. So we're going to try our best to close the distance and try and get there, because we want the top gun. That is what we want. We want to try and get there, make sure that we have the shot, and get that top gun. So there's the medium tank and the heavy tank. Like I say, they're both spotted at D9, and we're just relying on our mobility now to try and get there. The Chrysler has some pretty decent hit points, so, you know, I'm fairly confident I might be able to get there and get the shot in to kill this guy. The Object 432 ends up getting shut down by the M46, who is stock because they've got 240 Alpha. They've put another shot into the Chrysler there. I think they're keeping it pinned as well. The Chrysler ends up shutting down our Skoda T50, and because we're moving, look at the bloom, this is where we're just going to wait to make sure that we're getting the shot in, and we fire at the same time as the M46, and thank goodness me, my shot hit last, and we end up getting the top gun. I finished with the victory, the 6 kills, 5.2k damage, 967 assistance, the ace tanker top gun, the high caliber, 1920 base XP, a really great game for the Resilient. Again, it's one of those things where, like I said, when you're top tier in tier 9 game, you do feel that power, and you feel like you are very, very capable. You still feel capable in a tier 10 game, you just have to taper your expectations, as always with any tank, because you're, you know, basically a tier 10 that's watered down at tier 9. And, yeah, that was the best game I had in the tank. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to make the video. But I thought, no, you know, I'm going to play one more game. I feel like playing one more game, because I've actually enjoyed my time with this tank. I've enjoyed playing it. It's been pretty solid to play. Like I say, it's been pretty capable. I've enjoyed that sort of gameplay of it. And I thought, you know what, screw it, I'm going to play one more game. And yeah, it was one more game, that's for sure. Things are going to happen in this game, and it's a fairly long game, like I say. Strap in, kids. Woo! So, we're on this map, which is Heilbronn. And on Heilbronn, in a tank, I do like to go to the position over here at F6, because I can go hull down and shoot people that do cross the H line if they want. That Marat is spotted in an awkward position, but just as we're about to go around the corner, it's like, oh, hello, Mr. E75. So we put a big shot into the side of the E75 for 431, and hopefully we'll get there to maybe get another shot in, but we can't quite do that. Like I say, that Marat is actually in a pretty awkward spot. He could counter us pretty easily, but he's just fired, I'm pretty sure. So I'm going to take the risk, because I can get up here, try and get another shot into someone, and then I can pull back very, very quickly to get safe if I need to. Because he can get hulled down there quite easily, and with his good gun depression, he can also get safe quite quickly too. So as we poke over, we end up spotting the Waffle E100 and the Waffle Panzer IV. But we ended up panicking when we saw the Waffle E100 and went, oh no, pull back, and we just lost gun depression as we went for the shot into that Waffle and it ended up missing. We do get another shot though into that Waffle Panzer IV, which puts him down to a one-shot. Now the T-30's driven out and given us a possible shot into his side, so again, when I'm hulled down and I'm using my turret, I'm still pretty confident that I can bounce stuff off the turret, like I say, because the turret is pretty good. We went for the shot there into the T-30 side, and unfortunately it hit the floor, because like I say, 0.4 accuracy is not the best, and it will bounce. So we started coming over the ridgeline here, because I thought, well, did I spot? I feel like I might have spotted the Waffle Panzer IV and the Waffle E100 there, maybe, possibly, I don't know. So I'm trying my best to see if I can see them, but I'm not spotting them currently. We find the Marat, and we get the nice RBRT snapshot smashed straight into his side. I'm not sure what he's doing. He's using the worst thing he could have... Well, he's doing the worst thing he could have done, to be fair. He would have been much better up on top, and he ends up getting shut down by the QL. And we're just being mindful still of that Waffle Panzer IV. We end up bouncing something for 560, which I was assuming was the Waffle Panzer IV, because I thought, well, if the Waffle E100 goes back up there, he's going to get spotted by me, right? I'd be wrong. That must have been the Waffle E100, because the Waffle Panzer IV is spotted below me. Must have been the Waffle E100 that bounced off me there, and we probably got quite lucky. So we know that the Waffle Panzer IV is below us, so we wait for the reload, and we start to charge. And it's a 9.8 second reload for 440 Alpha is pretty decent when you're boosting with food as well. We see the 60 TP that's over there. There's a Marat. Thankfully, we get over here into this position of safety, and we're just now unspotted, but we find the Waffle E100. So we get shot into the side of the Waffle E100, and I'm just going to side scrape and wait for him to not look at me, which he's not looking at me anymore. So we go for that drive wheel, track it in place, keep it pinned so that our friends can try and shut down the Waffle. But he reloads and gets himself safe. Now we're going to make the cross. I want to wait, though, until I'm not spotted. I was going to just rush across, and I thought, no, wait until you're unspotted. Now we're unspotted, we can go, because we do know, like I say, there's a 60 TP and a Marat down there, as that Leopard 1 just found out. And we don't want to get shot by those guys and bleed too much in unnecessary hit points. So now we are safe. We can attack this TNH TVZ-51. So we pop over, get the shot into his lower plate. Unfortunately, we overexposed a little bit too much, which meant that the TNH TVZ-51 actually hit us too. We're spotting the Waffle E100 as well, who gets shot by the UDES, which means he's now a one-shot. He's not looking at me, thankfully, so we end up shutting down the Waffle E100. We're up to 2.8k damage and 534 assistance. Now we need to again get rid of this TNH TVZ-51. So we go for the shot into the drive wheel, which we get in. 400 damage, sorry. Low roll, but we tracked him in place, which hopefully means we get a little bit of tracking, which we do. I'm not going to pop over too much because I don't want to get hit by this T-54, who did fire at me, but hit the dead wreck of the T-30. We got a nice shot into his side. Now the TNH TVZ-51 has fired at me. The UDES pops over and finishes it off. So I'm just being careful now of this T-54, who looked like he was running away. So because he's running away, I'm thinking, right, okay, now I'm unspotted. This is where I want to go. We spotted on the minimap that there was 2 heavy tanks at J0. I want to get up behind them, and I want to get rid of them, because I want to get rid of the tanks that are behind us so that we can push forward. So we get a nice shot there into the T-54, which is kind of lucky, because he wasn't in our aim reticle there. It must have gone to the right and hit his tracks or something like that. But we'll take the pen. We'll take the RNG. It's always a good time. And now we're going against the 2 heavy tanks that we know, again, were at H0. And I'm watching what's happening in the base as well. The base defense has started to look very fragile, so what I'm actually thinking, instead of attacking the Marat and where that 60 TP was down at G5, I'm thinking, okay, I need to get rid of these 2 heavy tanks that were spotted down here and then get back towards base. So there's a pretty healthy Mauschen, and there is the 5A. So it's like, okay, these are the 2 heavy tanks. The 5A is actually driving. I'm thinking, is he going to go out into the open for me? So we're back up to a point where we can see him round the rock. I'm thinking, no, stop pulling back. I need to finish you off. And there we go. He gives us the shot. We slap the shot straight through the side of the 5A. Now we've got this Mauschen very much alone, which we can hopefully deal with. And I'm going to regret not switching to standard, if I'm honest, for going for doing what I'm about to do. But we got shot into the back of the Mauschen's turret, and now we're getting up to his side. We're going to hug his side because we're going to make it as awkward as possible for this guy with a slow turning turret to hit us, and there you go, he ended up missing. If you see a big, slow, cumbersome tank like a Mousechen, like a Mouse, like a Type 5 Heavy, stuff like that, and you're in a tank like a 50 TP that is actually fairly low to the ground, go hug their side, because you can make it as awkward as possible for them to get their gun onto you and get their shot in to you. You will basically save your hit points and you'll be able to keep farming them, and that's exactly what we planned to do with the Mousechen. We actually got up close to him, got a shot into his side, and then went, try it, mate. You know, that's what we did. So the SG-122-54 shuts down the Ruthless, and like you see, there's a TD, currently the CC Mark II, in our base, facing off against a heavy tank, and a TD, which is another Ruthless, currently charging up towards him. Just looking to see if I can get a shot into that Ruthless. I can't. I was possibly preparing for the Murat to come round on our left, but he doesn't. So what I'm actually going to do is get up here and try and support this CC1 Mark II if I can. But I'm not going to be that quick because we've got to get up some hills. So I could just go straight along the 8 line and go under the gun, but I don't want to do that in case the Murat comes around behind us at D7. So this is the safe option that we have to try and support this guy, which is go up this way along the 9 line, get hull down on this 9 line, and then try and keep working them over, from a hull down position. This game is he's on a knife's edge at the minute. It's 5-4. It's very, very close. But I fear for that Contra Carro Mark II. He's not going to survive for very long. I ping help because I want my tank to come and help me. I don't want the medium tank behind me to just sit there. I want him to try and come and help us. And there we go. The Contra Carro is under threat here. So we're going for the biggest threat, which is the Ruthless, because obviously he's got a big-ass gun. We get a shot into his side, which tracks him. And now we're going to try our best to try and... We just need to get shots into these guys. We can't let them get too close without bleeding. So this Murat, we get a shot into his side, which puts him down to a one-shot now, which means he's going to have to be very careful when he attacks us. As you can see, he's looking for a shot, but he's being exceptionally careful now because he's a one-shot for us. I go for a shot there into the Chieftain, and I thought if I pull around the corner, I was going to spot the Ruthless, because I thought maybe the Ruthless is attacking us and pushing aggressively, or if I poke around the corner, I'm going to spot all of them. But unfortunately, we just did not spot the Ruthless, even after he fired. So we got lucky there that really he wasn't firing AP, because that would have gone very, very badly. So that was a bit of fortunateness there, right there. But now we've got the Chieftain, who is up close and personal, which is not what we want. We're still looking for the shot into the Murat, who is coming out from behind that building, which is putting himself in the open. Now we've got the Chieftain, who isn't looking at us, so thankfully we get a shot into his side of the turret, which is good. We've just got to keep working these guys over. We've just got to keep knocking their hit points down. The UDES gets a nice shot into the Ruthless. We have to get rid of the Ruthless. We get a shot straight through his upper plate. Thankfully, his snapshot into us misses. Waiting for the reload. We have to get rid of this guy, because obviously he can take us out in one shot, whereas the other two will take 2 shots at least. And we shut down the Ruthless. Now we've got the ability to get after this Chieftain and this Murat, waiting for our reload. The Chieftain's going after the UDES, and sadly, the UDES ends up getting shut down by the Chief. But we're going to use this opportunity while he's reloading to hopefully get a shot into him before he can get a shot into us. Chieftain has bad gun depression over its rear, so thankfully his gun is shot up in the air. He couldn't quite get the shot into us. We do have to be careful, like I say, though, because he's still a 2-shot, and he has very, very good DPM. Now the 60 TP behind us is attacking our medium... our other heavy tank. Fortunately, that shot deviates and doesn't pen the 60 TP. Oh, if only that shot had penned. Now we're going after the shot into the Chieftain Mark 6. Thankfully, his snapshot into our track doesn't pen, and we get the shot straight through his lower plate, which puts him down to a one-shot. And we are in a 1 versus 3 currently, which is, yeah... We've still got some hit points to play with, which is good, but our ammo situation is getting a little bit dire too. And that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on. We're at 8.6 thousand damage, 1,500 assistance. We've had a fantastic game already for a tier 9. We've had way better than a fantastic game already. But we want to try and take this game down if we can. That Chieftain has used his better mobility to get away from us. I don't want to sit in the same location I was in, because I don't know how much health the T-54 has. The last time we saw the T-54, he was on 800 hit points, which is a 2-shot. If he's still on that, that's not good for us. That 60 TP is on 2,000 hit points, which is going to take a lot of shooting, and he can shut us down in 1 shot. The Chieftain's a 1-shot. We can HE that if we wanted to. So we have to be very, very careful with our ammo selection, and we're not going to be, unfortunately. And we've just got to get away from that position we're in. If we just stayed in the position at C9, it was inevitable that we probably would have died. Because the chieftain could have come after us, sure, we'd have shut him down. But then maybe a 2-shot T-54 and then a full health nearly 60 TP would have come after us, and we would have died. They would have known exactly where we are, and that is not good. You need to basically change it up as quickly as possible and do something else. So I completely break contact. I expect them to possibly go after our cap, or to be driving towards where I was. So what I want to do is take the safest routes I possibly can, try and get up behind them, and then come up that 8 line. Because I was thinking maybe, against, especially with a 60 TP, maybe I will get up behind him slow enough and catch him out and be able to put some shots into his ass, which would be great. Because my 240 standard pen is going to struggle with a 60 TP, whereas my premium pen is not. So, and we only have 2 rounds of that, so we've got to be very, very careful. So what I'm just trying to do is be very, very careful, not get spotted too early, keep cover with me, so that if I do get spotted and I do find the tanks, I'm not just going to get spotted and get farmed. It's not what we want. So, like I say, we're going back towards where they were last spotted, where they possibly are, and in the hope that maybe we'll get there, catch one of them out, and be able to shut them down, because you never know, because no one's capping at the minute. So we just don't know where they are. And there we go, the cap goes. Someone's in our cap. I'm thinking, maybe it's the chieftain? Maybe it's the T-54. Maybe it's the 60 TP. I don't know at this point. But there's only one in our cap. So, we have to go back and defend it. There is no other choice, really. We have to get back and defend the cap. So we're just going to have to push. We've got the hit points to take a hit or two. Realistically, we could actually take a hit from the chieftain and get lucky and take a hit from the T-54 as well. And we get spotted the moment we go round. So I hesitate a little bit, use the ridgeline in front of me to try and bait a shot. I want them to shoot at me at this point in time so that I can, you know, spot them. The chieftain ends up firing. We go for the snapshot into his cupola, which actually hits, but doesn't pen. Damn. We load HE because we can splash the chieftain, and the T-54 is 169 hit points. If we hit him in the right spot, we might actually be able to splash him with HE as well, and save our much-needed AP rounds for the 60 TP. That is what is going through my mind. So what we want to do is get up here, get hull down against this chieftain, possibly not take a shot off him, and shut him down with the HE rounds. We've got to be very, very careful not to expose our side too much to the tank, the 60 TP that is in the cap. So we're going to try and keep ourselves on the right-hand side of this ridgeline so that we're not overdoing it for the 60 TP. And as we come over, I'm thinking, you know what, actually, I'm going to take the hit from this chieftain just to get rid of him. He breaks my turret, but we shut him down with HE. The T-54 kills himself. Fantastic. Now it's just the 60 TP to kill. And it's like, right, okay, I'm in the perfect location to defend the base from as well. There he is. He misses, which gives us a chance to slap the shot in. In hindsight, we should have gone for the back end because we could actually track him and then maybe break his engine, possibly get a fire, who knows. But we get a shot into him. He's still sitting there, though. We know we've got a chance to get a shot into his side before he ends up reloading again. So we get another shot into his side. And now he is waiting to fire on us again. There we go. He tries to hit us again. He misses. We get a shot into his side, which damages his ammo rack, which means that we now know we can expose for a little bit longer. But he actually repairs. So he's repaired his ammo rack. We're just waiting for... We're running out against the clock here, so we have to take the shots that come. And unfortunately, the slim shot we had at his lower plate just dips into the floor, so we couldn't get it. And we miss, which means he's not a 2-shot anymore. So we go for the snapshot into his lower plate because we haven't got any time left. And it only tracks him in place. Oh no, we've crested 10,000 damage. We've only got HE left. We go for the shot into the top of his engine, top of his roof. Our only hope now was to get the shots of HE and to try and whittle his HP down to see if we could beat him by RNG. And we're not going to get the final shot in. And the game ends. Will we win? Because the RNG is not with us, unfortunately, I don't think. And we lose the game. RNG wasn't with us. We didn't take enough hit points from that game. We finished the game with 4 kills, 10,235 damage. Ace tanker, high caliber Confederate defender. 1,730 base XP on a loss. 10,235 damage with 4 kills. Pain! Oh, we got beat by RNG. Oh, heartbreak. Absolute heartbreak. What a game in that tank. That was one of the best games I've had in a while. What a game in the Resilient. I'd say it's a fully capable tank. It's bad in some situations, but good in others. It's pretty damn well balanced. And if you were to buy it, obviously you're supporting charity. It's down to you whether you want to spend that money. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
great success.